Located 47 kilometers north of Prague, in a remote area is a castle that is said to be one of the most haunted locations in the world. Houska Castle, known locally as the Gateway to Hell. Houska Castle was built in the second half of the 13th century during the reign of Ottokar II of Bohemia. Over the years, ownership of the castle would pass from one owner to another. Then, in the 16th century, it was renovated as more of a Renaissance-styled castle. In the 18th century, it would fall into a state of disrepair before being renovated again in 1823. In 1897, it was purchased by a princess, and then in 1924 the castle would pass ownership again when it was bought by the president of Skuda, Joseph Szymonek, and as of 2020, it was still owned by his descendants. The castle was built in a remote area surrounded by forests, swamps, and mountains. It was a location with no strategic value and far from any trade routes. The castle has several strange features. For instance, many of the castle's windows are not actual windows, they're just facades. The castle also has no external fortifications. Instead, all of the fortifications face inwards. There's no water source, there's no kitchen, and no one was living in the castle when it was completed. All of this combined makes it pretty clear that unlike most castles around the world, Houska Castle wasn't built as a protective sanctuary, a fortress, or even a residence. Officially, the castle was built with the intention of serving as an administration center where the extensive royal estates would be managed. But legends say otherwise. Remember how I said that the fortifications face inwards? According to popular belief, this is very intentional, because it's believed that the castle wasn't built to keep people out. It was built to keep something in. According to folklore, Houska Castle, or to be more specific, the chapel within the castle, which is dedicated to Saint Michael the Archangel, is said to have been constructed over a large hole in the ground. A hole that's so deep that no one could see the bottom of it. Stories would emerge of animal-human hybrids crawling out of the hole and dark-winged creatures flying around the area where the hole was located. Reportedly, the castle is home to various types of ghosts, a headless horse, and the remains of the demonic beasts that managed to escape the pit. As one might expect, there are a few legends surrounding Houska Castle. One such legend has it that before construction of the castle began, local prisoners who had been sentenced to death were brought to the gateway and were offered a pardon, but only if they agreed to being lowered by rope into the hole and then report back on what they saw once they came back up. Only one young man volunteered. He was tied and lowered into the hole, but only a few seconds after he had disappeared into the darkness below, he began screaming at them to pull him back up. They quickly did, and when he came back to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years in the few seconds that he had been in the pit. He was wrinkled and his hair had turned white. He was allegedly very agitated and still screaming from whatever he had seen while down in the hole. After this, no other prisoner volunteered to be lowered into the pit. they would rather accept their death sentence. The young man was supposedly so disturbed by whatever he had seen or experienced down in that pit that he was sent to an insane asylum where he died 2 days later from unknown causes. Allegedly, this event is what led Prince Wenceslas I to demand that the pit would be covered with the chapel. But people still claimed for centuries that they could hear howls and screams coming from under the stone floor at night. Another legend says that during the 30 Years' War, which was a conflict fought largely within the Holy Roman Empire, Houska fell under the control of the Swedish army. The commander of the Swedes was a man called Oronto. He was supposedly a very cruel man who was rumored to conduct a number of rituals while being based in the castle. Supposedly, he was aware of the power underneath the castle and he wanted to harness that power for himself. Some say that he was trying to achieve immortality. However, he wasn't successful. Nothing he did worked. The only thing he achieved was the anger of the locals, who would offer a reward of 100 gold to whoever could kill the commander. 2 local hunters would claim this reward after they shot the commander through a window and he died in the main hall. According to the legend, he is now one of the ghosts that resides at Houska Castle, as he is said to wander the castle in anger. During the Second World War, the Nazis would also occupy the castle. There are multiple theories, speculation, and stories about their interest in the occult. The most well-known is probably Heinrich Himmler's occult library. Himmler was obsessed with the occult and he collected many books regarding this topic. And as recently as 2016, researchers would find 13,000 occult books in a depot of the National Library of Czech Republic near Prague. And given this library's proximity to Houska Castle, it is believed by some that some of these books were taken to the castle in order to conduct experiments. While the accuracy of the previous 2 stories is hard to prove, this legend is a bit more steeped in reality, as we unfortunately know that the Nazis existed, and their, or at least Himmler's, interest in the occult is also pretty well known. The legends surrounding the area where Houska Castle is located are older than the castle itself. For instance, according to the Czech Chronicle, which was published in 1541, the area was home to a small wooden fort back in the 9th century. I wasn't able to find much information on the supposed Swedish commander who occupied the castle beyond the places retelling the legends of Houska Castle. Same goes for the original story of the young prisoner. Many legends often have details in them that are based in truth. In fact, there are some legends that are based on events worse or even more tragic than the legend itself. So perhaps there is some kernel of truth in these stories. Or maybe the truth is that the only demons at Houska Castle were the ones occupying it during the Second World War. Today, you can tour the castle. This includes the chapel that supposedly covers the gateway to hell.